ANC chair Gwede Mantashe's attempt to speak at Cosatu's Congress was halted by union members that are not happy with how the government has handled wage negotiations. Mantashe was on Monday booed by workers who are rejecting government's 3% wage offer, resulting in the ANC leaving the Congress yesterday. The development has exposed widening fractures in the tripartite alliance ahead of the ANC's National Elective Conference in December. So what does it mean, especially taking a look at December? We're joined by Ongama Mtimka, a political analyst. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for availing yourself.
Good afternoon to you and your viewers. Thank you for having me.
Is this anything new that we should be wowed about?
No, it's not. So it has happened throughout the history of the alliance to have seasons where the relations are fraught and the tensions tend to rise leading up to the conference of the ANC. If you look, for example, since 2007, you'll find that the Communist Party in each of the, conference years resolves to go and contest elections on its own, subject to the outcome of the conference. If you look at the importance of Cosatu support for ANC presidential candidates, it's always been, one candidate or another, depending on who succeeds at the conference. However, I think it's the first time where the rank and file membership, or people closer to the rank and file, kind of depart from the official position of the elite that are leading the union. And I think that we find ourselves there at this stage where, despite the reassurances from Zingiswalosi, for example, the rank and file membership are reasserting their relative autonomy from the leadership, and also, in fact, the displeasure with how life is in South Africa in 2022.
Sure, this reassertion of relative autonomy, Gwede Mantashe yesterday characterizing members of the tripartite alliance, Cosatu in particular, as immature.
Well, to the extent that they could have allowed him to speak and engage, should the opportunity avail itself, but they didn't and opted to boo him. You could construe it as that, but I think that from an independent observer point of view, to me it underscores the extent of anger at the political accommodations that are made among the elites of the union and the ANC, and in fact goes to a historical phenomenon where at the foundation of Cosatu and Fosatu, the debates were held about the strategic correctness of what they call political unionism, the kind of unionism that goes beyond shop floor or factory floor issues and applies itself to the political situations of the country, and in fact aligns with some of the liberation fighters at the time, and then in the democratic period, the rationale to remain within the tripartite alliance on the basis that it being inside allowed Cosatu to be an internal, check on the ANC's policy trajectory. But now that has come, to it's reached crisis levels, because notwithstanding the commitment of the political elite to continue to support one another, the rank and file membership are perhaps driven by the realities of living in a South Africa where the socio-economic living conditions have become untenable. And so that anger, for me, shows to the union leadership that the risks of political unionism have now actually happened, and therefore there needs to be some strategic recalculations.
What options are then available for rank and file members, right? So we can speak about their immaturity for not allowing them to speak. This also happened to President Cyril Ramaphosa, where Cosatu rank and file members would not allow him to speak at May Day rallies in the Northwest, as they were also facing situations at the mines that are unfavorable to them, and no one seems to be paying attention. So what options are available to them?
So before I answer that, we grapple with this issue of political representation in political science, that representatives sometimes tend to be about themselves and whatever strategic considerations are available for them in terms of personal advancement. So what's there for the rank and file membership is to actually reassert themselves in terms of the style and manner in which Cosatu going forward relates with the ANC. At the level of the SACP, that rank and file membership has been calling for testing elections alone. Whether the rank and file membership is so aggrieved to the extent of posing the question of severing, as Gwede Mantashe put it, severing ties with the ANC, that's something which will be interesting, because if all that there was to this political activism was just booing Mantashe and there was no follow-through in terms of what to make of the strategic alliance with the ANC, then the risk of them being seen to have been just immature and having no political agenda beyond the booing will stand.
Could it be that you and I are making much to do about nothing, especially maybe when we assess the situation of the relevance crisis, quote unquote, not only for the ANC, but the tripartite itself, especially when you take a look at the rank and file members who are still supporting the leaders at the top. You look at the average South Africans who are still supporting the ANC in spite of the discontent.
That's very important, by the way, because it doesn't always follow that displeasure with the ANC means that there must be severing of ties. We saw that with the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party, whether the spectacular failure, in fact, of the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party started by NUMSA has got to do with matters of strategy and tactics for NUMSA, or in fact the idea that you couldn't assume that because you are a union, you've got a lot of support behind you, is for anybody to explore further. But I think I've said that to say you're quite right, that maybe there may be an issue of anger which does not go beyond questions of, comrades, you need to make right, and in fact may not translate to support for an alternative.
Yeah. Thank you very much for weighing in on this issue. Ongama Mtimka is a political analyst.